Hi, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Orthodoxy Questions and Answers. Once again, Presbytera, nice to have you here.
Good to be here.
To guide to guide me out of heresy, right? Just in case I'm messing up here. So we have Saint of the Day. I've got two Saints of the Day. One, I think everybody's going to guess. Okay, very, very famous saint. But the second one actually takes his name from one of the great Greek philosophers. So
Demosthenes.
Is there a philosopher, Demosthenes?
A philosopher of speech making.
Philosopher of speech.
Or,
Okay. Well, or Euclid. I would have gone with Euclid, right? Okay.
He's the patron saint of people putting pebbles in their mouths.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Okay. What was the reason for that again? Why the monks put pebbles in their mouth for a reason? Man, it was.
Well, Demosthenes did it for his diction, to improve his diction.
Oh, is that what it was? Oh, okay,
he couldn't roll his R's and stuff like that.
Oh,
don't you put a rock in your mouth too if you want to salad, like if it's dry?
Right, but there was a spiritual reason why they put a pebble in their mouth to remind them of something. I'm trying to remember what that was. But anyway. So here we are, almost at the end of October.
Oh.
Can't believe that.
Next Thursday is the last show of the month. Wow.
That's right, and then comes the holiday that cannot be named. Right?
Yeah, we have a few questions about that holiday, so it is going to be named.
It is going to be. Yeah. It is going to be named. All right. So. I was there was what I was gonna talk about, but I'm actually writing it as the next article for the Good News. So in the October Good News, I wrote the article about our upcoming General Assembly meeting, and I was talking about the importance of having a strategic plan and the fact that the church and the community have to know. The parishioners have to know, what is our vision? Where do we plan to go? Where is our leadership taking us? And is that the right thing to do? So, strategic planning is a big part of what we're going to be looking at the General Assembly. But also then this month, what I wanted to focus on is we also have to think, and we've been talking about this, for a while, is, what is the strategic plan for the individual? I.e. retirement, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody always, thinks about their career and how they're going to progress through their career, but now that we are actually living longer, right? And as long as we keep our health, right? We're able to do a lot of things. My father, he was retired longer than he was working. I mean, not full life, but I mean, where he got his pension from, he actually was in retirement longer. So now we've got these considerations to make. It's not like you retire and the next year, boom, you die. So
that's a nice thing.
That is not a nice thing.
What? I mean, retiring and then
die?
No, I'm saying it's a nice thing that doesn't happen.
Oh. Yes. Okay, I thought you said it's a nice thing that we retire and die.
Once you retire, you're useless.
But you make a good point because people won't say it, and especially men won't say it, that because their identity is so wrapped up in their job and their career, once they don't have that, then they kind of feel like they don't have purpose. Why that was, and I was very, very fortunate because I got a taste of that, and very quickly. When I was in the military, I was captain. So some of the respect that I got was because of the rank that I had and because I had the army behind me. Okay, so it wasn't me, Angelo. It was the position that I held that gave me the authority and the fact that I could command that level of authority. When I went to work for General Motors and I went and saw a supplier, okay, they rolled out the red carpet for me because I had the power of General Motors behind me. So and you kind of as a man, you get caught up in that. Well, when I went off on my own and I had the consulting company, Now I finally realized, okay, wow, when I went to call on a customer or a client, they were like, well, who are you? You don't have the army behind you, you don't have GM behind you don't have any large corporation, it's just me. And now you have to figure out who you are. So I think I was very fortunate and blessed, if I could use that word, which I will use that word. Could I use that word? Yes, I will use that word. That I got an early taste for that. And then that really got me to thinking about, what is my strategic plan for when I'm going to retire? And then what I want to write about in the article is, as a Christian, what is our retirement obligation? I mean, do we live a life in Christ and then we retire and then we're hedonistic and we do whatever we want? Because when you go on websites and you look at your retirement ideas, 23 things you can do in retirement. And when you go through the list, the vast majority of them are hedonistic. Travel, enjoy yourself, gamble on a thing. Gamble on a cruise ship. So as a Christian, we have to think about what is it and what is our purpose when we leave our career, and what is it that we're going to do then to give back. Again, Christ's second commandment, which is do unto others as I have, not do unto others, love one another as I have loved you. And so giving back as a Christian in semi-retirement and retirement is one of the things we want to look at. So that's going to be the theme of the November issue. So anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that.
All right. Well, before we go on, you have a Saint of the Day.
When are you retiring?
Me? Well, in about... let me look at my watch here. You see, I don't plan on ever retiring because, I'll be honest, I'm lucky in that what I do is what I love to do. So a retirement plan for you would be a little bit easier because it's not based on your hands. It's not a physical requirement that, when your body wears out, like if you were a welder or you were a construction worker, right? Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, I assume when I'm 70, my hands might have a little bit more trouble typing as much, but I might slow down a little bit.
Well, that's
typing, maybe by then.
By typing will be...
Yeah.
By then, all the medicine that I have, I'll probably look the same.
All right. Now, you said you had a question for me. I don't want to spend too much time.
Well, before we jump into questions, you have a Saint of the Day.
Did somebody came up with it?
You didn't ask it.
I already
said.
You did
ask
it.
it.
You
Yes,
did.
I did.
My bad. Sorry, a question from last week.
Okay. So the question from last week was what does the Orthodox think about the
Christ child in the rose garden?
Now, and I was before the show. I was asking you about that just to clarify a little bit. And what you think that means is the infancy narrative of Christ, things that he did as a child. Is that what?
I assume it's specifically about the story of Jesus when he was a child and he was able to bring sparrows to life via clay.
Yeah,
if memory serves, it's a famous story from the Gospel of Thomas.
Right. And
the apocryphal Gospel of Thomas.
The apocryphal Gospel of Thomas. And here in section 3 of that, now Jesus made of clay 12 sparrows, and it was the Sabbath day, and the child ran and told Joseph, and the child played in the brook and made the sparrows of clay, which is not lawful, because he was working on the Sabbath. Okay. So anyway, what does the Orthodox think about that? As Demos mentioned, these are the apocryphal Gospels. These were written after, and this particular one, the infancy narratives within the Gospel of Thomas, we believe were written almost into the 4th century. Okay, so in the 300s. But the way the Orthodox see them is we see them as Gnostic literature. All right. There is the idea that that Islam in the Book of Quran also has this particular story in it. All right, but we view that as a Gnostic gospel, and trying to fill in the pieces of Jesus' entire life, and also to show him in a divine sense, but to more deny his humanity. So remember, for Gnostics, what's important is to have knowledge. So we don't treat this in any way as a canonical gospel, and we see the stories more as mythology.
Well, that does bring up a much debated question when it comes to the depiction of Jesus in the Bible, right? We pretty much jump from when he was a baby, his birth.
Mm-hmm.
We do have the incident at the temple when he was 12.
Right.
And then we revisit him in his adult years when he's about to begin his ministry.
Correct.
All right. So the question that a lot of people have speculated, and there are specific terms for this which escape my memory at the moment, but was Jesus, did he have the knowledge, his godly knowledge and awareness at the young age? So if he's in the case of the Gospel of Thomas, when he is bringing sparrows and so forth to life, does he have the mind of a child, or does he have the full mind of God? And if he does have the full mind of God, why is he acting like a child?
So let's answer the first question. For Orthodoxy, and I believe this is also the case for Catholicism too, Jesus always was knowledgeable of his divinity. So there is no time when he did not know that he was one with the Father. That is Orthodox theology. And for that reason, this is why you will not see Jesus depicted with a baby face. It always has kind of an adult face, so it can kind of look a little,
When I don't mean this in a blasphemous way, but when I was a kid, I always found that slightly creepy.
Slightly creepy,
Yeah,
right.
I have to be honest.
Right. So he's always represented, even when he is in the swaddling clothes, that his face is adult-like. So we want to be very careful that we don't turn him into a Buddhist-like
Figure.
figure.
Yeah.
Thank you. A Buddhist-like figure, that he was so pleasing to God in his life that God granted him divinity. He achieved nirvana. We don't want to because then that would make him then a created being who has now received his divinity. Jesus Christ is very clear. I was with and O God the Father, grant me the glory that I had with you before the beginnings of the world. So Jesus always knew that he was divine. Right? Now, answering to the second question, St. Paul tells us, except for sin, he was like us in every way. So in that sense, we believe that, yes, he did have a normal childhood, that he grew up, he learned a trade, he played with other children, he liked girls. I mean, we have no problem, right?
Do we know that?
No, I mean, well,
When you say liked girls, do you mean?
We have to. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. He liked girls. I'm saying that we can't take away his humanity. Okay, but at the same time, he was divine, meaning that he knew his purpose. So he always knew what his purpose was. So as a child, I'm saying while he may have liked girls, he knew what his purpose was. So he wasn't distracted.
So what you're saying is that when we read the stories of Christ as a child, we have to take into consideration that he is allowing himself to have that experience as a child.
I guess maybe it's right. We can say it in that sense. I mean, because again, there are the heresies of Docetism, right, where they believe that all of what he did was appearances. He was fully divine, and he only appeared. He didn't really have a body. He didn't really live as a human. And Docetism was one of the early heresies that was stopped by the church very, very early on. So we are very, very strict on the point that he lived a human life, but at the same time, he was aware of and knew his divinity.
All right. Well, we have a lot of questions in tonight, but real quick.
Oh, wow.
We have hellos from Trench, Diane, Thespina, and a message from Amelia, who says, "Hello, I've been waiting all week for this."
Oh, geez. Okay.
It's 1 a.m. where they are. So, Amelia, thank you. Thank you very much.
1 a.m.
For staying up.
Oh, it must be in England?
I assume. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she has a question later, and Edward also says good evening. So,
Oh.
shall we?
All right. You
Who,
ready
who was it
to?
that went, good evening? This is the...
There. Well, I mean, Dracula says good evening. But,
Alfred
No,
Hitchcock.
I thought it was like a radio show or something
Alfred
like that.
Hitchcock.
there are quite a few.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, quite a few that,
Okay.
like,
Well,
right now, you.
yeah. All right.
right.
Anyway, so
All right. You ready to jump in?
I'm ready to go.
Okay. All right. Our first question from Jesus Mine. Like that.
Wait a minute.
Jeez.
M-I-N-E?
M-I-N-E.
What?
Jesus Mine. Can you go to heaven without communion?
Well, in the Orthodox faith, the answer to that question is no. We believe that, as again, I would believe that the Catholic faith does, is that Holy Communion is essential for salvation. It is a sacrament of the Church, and therefore it is essential for salvation. Meaning that this is the way that we as Christians fully take in and abide in Christ, that we physically have him inside of us. Jesus Christ said, "Do this in remembrance of me." So for us, yes, the sacrament of Holy Communion is essential for salvation. Now, what we don't say is the period of, every week, and again, there will be priests that say you should receive communion, Holy Communion every week. There are other priests that say you should receive only communion only very sparingly because those are the only times that you are worthy. And the answer is that you have to receive communion on some kind of regular basis, but you have to be prepared and you are never worthy.
The same priests who say that you need to take communion every week, all right? Let's take into consideration, isn't confession a primary aspect of communion?
Absolutely. 100%.
So you have to confess before you receive communion.
That is the yes, it is, that is. But I know, like in the Russian and the Romanian expressions, Orthodox expressions, that they typically don't have confession every week, but they must go to confession on a regular basis, and they define that regular basis as every 3 months or so they can receive communion within that time. But yes, you are essentially correct.
All right. Gregory H. asks, I am a lifelong Christian. My favorite holiday is Halloween. Why is it considered evil? Scary stories and dressing up like Frankenstein do not seem like something you should suffer for.
So it is now, and as you've probably heard me on the videos that I've done about Halloween, we don't necessarily, we as Orthodox, we don't necessarily have a problem with having a fun celebration, meaning kids dressing up. What we don't want is we don't want to embrace what are some of the more negative or demonic aspects of Halloween. If we go to the root of it, driving away evil spirits, and we don't want people to delve into that area because it can be very dangerous territory, especially when you're dressing up as Satan or you're dressing up as a witch, and you're allowing yourself to enter into those realms. Okay, fine. You want to dress as Frankenstein because it's kind of cool. Yeah, okay. I don't see any problem in that. Dressing up as your favorite superhero and enjoying it and telling spooky stories. But what can happen is if those costumes are either too demonic or too lustful, right? I mean, you don't want to be dressing up, in clothing, especially women, that is way too suggestive, right? Especially when it's kids and things like that.
Well,
right?
definitely when it comes to children.
Yeah, right. So we want to just be very careful that we don't enter into those very humanly realms where we can be affected by demonic forces. That's really what the issue is here. But as long as that is not the intent, then Halloween is just kind of a fun time that we dress up in characters that I don't want to say emulate, but that we just kind of what's the word I'm looking for there? Like if you dress up as Frankenstein, you don't think you're Frank. You don't look up to Frankenstein, but you do it just because it's
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of, it's a chance to not be yourself, I
Right.
guess, or to put yourself in somebody else's shoes.
right, right.
Even if Frankenstein's monster, I assume, would be very large shoes, but
Well, I remember, I think it was when we were in
Yeah,
Germany.
right.
When we were in Germany, during the army days, and we had the wives get together. We had a Halloween. I think it was a coffee gathering, and it was Halloween. So dress up, and people came as a cat or I can't remember what it was, but it was really tame stuff. And then we had one come dressed in a French maid costume, and she walked in, and we're all like Midwest tame costumes, and she's in her French maid costume. She's like, probably didn't dress appropriately
For this
Forget that.
party. So yeah, I wouldn't get all bent out of shape about a Halloween party, but you just have to be cautious in terms of that you don't let it go to the areas that can lead you down a rather demonic path.
we have some follow-ups. Emilia's from Sweden.
All right.
So welcome, Sweden. Teresa says it's actually 12:19 in England, where she's watching. So it's an hour difference. And Maria, I assume this is in reference to the communion question, says, except if you're hanging on a cross beside Jesus. Because they were saved without communion.
Yes, they were. Yes.
But being that they were at the event, I think that gives...
Well, and again, and at that point they were not considered Christians, right? I mean, they were a robber. They weren't up in the upper room hearing Jesus say, "Do this in remembrance of me," right? Okay, so and it is Jesus as the judge granted them forgiveness, right, at that moment. All
Did he
right?
grant them or the one? Because the one laughed at him.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Well, in the beginning they both kind of did, but then he says, "Hey, don't you have any respect?" So yes, they granted him the one.
Yeah. Well, all right. Next up, third star to the left. Is make-believe a sin? Most fairy tales include witches and monsters. Should we stop reading them to children?
I don't know. It's not that we should stop reading those. I mean, we all grew up with the Hans Christian Andersen and the fractured fairy tales. Brothers Grimm. Okay, which can be really grim. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they're more morbid than some horror stories nowadays.
But I think as Orthodox clergy, what we would like is a little bit of a mix with biblical stories. And one of the things I really love about what Demos is doing is that he is taking these biblical stories and he's making them entertaining. So that, okay, fine, we have this Grimm fairy tale, or this Grimm's fairy tale, all right, and it's fun to hear those stories and Alice in Wonderland and all that, but at the same time, let's also teach our kids those wonderful stories that are in the Bible. And if you look at the videos that we do, we present those, or he presents those, in a very entertaining and a very story-like fashion. And these are not myths, and that's what's even more important. So, no, we don't have a problem with you telling those stories, but you know what? Why don't you mix in a few of the biblical stories? The handwriting on the wall, what a great story. The Battle of Jericho, what a great story there. The Witch of Endor. We have a host of wonderful stories.
The Witch of Endor reminds me. It sounds like an episode from Star Wars.
It does.
It
Right?
sounds like Bewitched, Endora.
I'm thinking that third star to the left is a little bit biased because I'm thinking this is a crack on second star to the right. So Peter Pan, these kind of children's stories.
Oh, okay, all right.
But to add to that, at least in most of the Grimm fairy tales, if it's a witch or a supernatural antagonist, most of the time they are presented as an evil force. So it's not like these stories are celebrating.
Yes, that's true too. Yeah, that's a good point.
I have to toss in there that Alice in Wonderland is not a Grimm's fairy tale.
Lewis Carroll. It's,
Lewis Carroll.
It's a series of
All
books.
right. Okay.
But it's in the same, I mean, so is Peter Pan, J.M. Barrie. It's in the same fantasy realm for children,
okay.
yeah.
All right, but the best is Fractured Fairy Tales. That's the best. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I wonder how many people do.
And the what was the kid in the Greek philosopher?
Aesop's.
Aesop.
Aesop's Fables, right?
Yeah. All right. Trench asks, if all sin is equal, then why are some treated much more harshly to be prevented to get communion, since that's supposed to forgive sins?
Well, and he's right, because the Orthodox do not have the categories of venial and mortal sin. Okay, but we do believe that that there are capital vices, the 7 deadly sins, if we can call them that, and from that then sprouts others. And the early church fathers even talked about it in that manner, kind of this idea of the tree of vices and the tree of virtues. And you see then some of those main vices, and then out of those vices then come sub vices, if I could say that. So while we treat all sin as bad, what we can see is that certain sins will then lead to greater sins. So, for example, the sin of pride can lead us then into envy and jealousy and covetousness. And we can see that the sin of, let's say, vainglory can lead us into
pride. And...
pride and vainglory are separate. Vainglory can lead us then into a desire to not just only be proud of ourselves, but that desire to ensure that others see how great that we are. And so Facebook and TikTok and all those, when used improperly, become mechanisms for vainglory. So even though we consider all of them the same, we see that they can lead us into certain sins, can lead us then down the path to then other and deepen our fall into sin.
And this is why you, as a YouTube star, always try to maintain a humble nature.
A humble nature. How great.
We have I want to do a shout out to Byzantine Ladybug, who is brand new here. Hello.
All right.
And Diane also points out The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe as a Christian allegory.
Yeah, well, isn't that's he's a Christian author? That's
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis, yeah.
And you'll find a lot of. Tolkien had some Christian bents to it. And heck, Presbyterian and I earlier were talking about Christian allegory in films, so you will find that quite a bit.
Well, yes, but I was saying let's actually tell the stories that are in the Bible, because they are really, really great stories.
All right, well, something to do. Trunk or treat coming up. Something for the trunk.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
All right. I've got two things. Nicholas G has a question, but he first says, "Hello, Father. I have a really bad back pain. Can you say a prayer for me?"
Okay. Glory to the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, now and forever, and to the ages of ages. Amen. Lord Jesus Christ, our God, if it be your will, we ask that you grant strength to this your suffering servant for his back pain, and if it also be your will that from his suffering that he deepens his understanding and his faith in you, and that he may recover to fully grant you the glory that you are due. For your name is holy now and forever, to the ages of ages. Amen.
All right, thank you. And his question is it true that when a priest is ordained and a church is looking to hire a new priest, the priest that they have in mind has to interview with the board of trustees?
Incorrect. One, we don't use the word hire. Orthodox parishes do not hire their priests. Their priests are assigned to them by the bishop. So we got to clear that up first. We don't use the word hire. Secondly, parishes do not interview priests. what happens is that the bishop will send the priest to meet with the parish council, and the purpose of that meeting is to find out if the priest can align with what is the culture of that parish. And I'm not saying that the bishop is trying to say whatever the parish wants, we just want to make sure that priest is going to do that. That's not what we're saying. But what the bishop wants is that there are certain personalities in a priest that are going to match up with the personalities of a parish. And so we want to make sure that marriage can be successful. So the parish does not interview the priest, because interviewing the priest would mean they have the ability to say yes or no. And they don't have that. What they can say is that this particular personality is not well suited to us, and the bishop can take that under consideration and then offer maybe another candidate. But we have to avoid the words hire and interview.
We have a super chat from Tommy Williams. Welcome, Tommy.
Hi, Tommy.
Welcome back.
When does being proud of yourself cross the line? Like, it can't be wrong to be proud of your achievements, even though the definition of pride kind of means that. Maybe the Greek definition is different. I'm not sure.
No, it's a fairly easy answer. When you feel that what you have accomplished is solely due to you, then you have entered into the area of pride, of the sin of pride. When you realize that you have done something well and that has been granted to you by the grace of God, and you recognize the source of that accomplishment, then you're in good territory. So that's really where you can cross the line, is where when we do something and we start to brag about it, and God is left out of the picture, and we think that this is all because of our doing, is when you can run into trouble.
For instance, you give me a lot of credit for these videos, but you're 50% of it as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
this is a collaboration.
It's a
It's
collaboration.
like Lennon and McCartney.
Well, it is like Lennon.
Or Simon and Garfunkel. There we go.
Well,
There you go.
Well, maybe it's more like John Lennon and George
Or
Harrison.
Spielberg Lucas.
Yeah, I don't want one of us to get shot. I'm sorry.
But the reason I give Demos more credit is what he brings to this is the ability to stay entertained. I mean, fine, I could, and that's not saying anything against Terry, but you could film me, right, just speaking about the whole thing, right, and we'd have 3 views. But the fact that that Demos is able to add elements in this that create kind of a movie, and then I'm speaking about it, that's true entertainment. He's been given a gift from God, and he is using it properly.
You just like the fact that I green screened you into the Vatican.
Oh, well, yeah. We still can't get over that, because parishioners did come up to me and ask me how I was able to get to the Vatican and back in time for liturgy.
And what did you say?
Well, you're a pilot.
Yeah, well, I did tell him that there's a red eye going from Milan. So.
Oh, all right. And where are we at here now? Next question is Miggs. Does the Orthodox Church believe in the intercession of your guardian angel?
100%, yes, we do believe in the intercessory powers of the guardian angel. This is why at the baptism the guardian angel is assigned, is in some ways a protector. All right, we certainly don't worship the guardian angel, but it is assigned to us during the baptism as kind of our protector. And so certainly we can ask for the intercessions, and just as we can ask for the intercessions of the Theotokos, and I can ask for Presbyteros intercessions and Demos's intercessions. So yes.
What is the Orthodox take? Because when I saw Guardian Angel, I immediately thought of It's a Wonderful Life, and the famous line at the end, every time bell rings, an angel gets its wings. What is the Orthodox take on that concept? Do we believe that guardian angels have wings, or the concept of angels having wings in the first place.
No, we don't. No, we don't believe in the wing concept, but we.
Except for, well, no, some angels have wings. The ones surrounding the throne of God.
Yeah, but those are words that are used to describe, because all that a wing means in a biblical sense is not tied to the earth, meaning that they are aloft. Okay, and for humans to understand the concept of aloft, they think of a bird, and so we use the idea of wings. But, and as Saint Basil says, the poverty of the human language forces us into these very practical ideologies.
So we don't take that literally in Revelations, where it says they have the 6 wings, two covering their. Oh gosh, no! It just left my head. I'm drawing a blank.
Two covering their faces and two covering their feet, or things like that.
We don't.
I mean, well, because we don't want to apply anthropomorphic ideals to heavenly principalities.
Yeah, I mean, we try to describe things the way that we understand them at the time. So if I were to take a television and somehow, and a generator, I guess I would need to have a generator, take it back to Jesus' time and show people.
Right.
They would probably call it the magic square or something that is within their understanding. So as God and anything that's supernatural, it's something that we cannot conceive in our time and our understanding.
Right.
So we apply other explanations. If I saw somebody with one of the flight suits, or a hang glider, right?
Yeah.
That would probably be described in biblical times as somebody who has wings.
Right, exactly. But the main idea of wings, when we hear of wings, is that this means that they are not bound to the earth as mortal beings.
All right. And I had my own personal experience regarding the guardian angel, but I won't go into that now. But I do believe. Yeah, well.
Okay.
All right. Next up, Oscar Nelson. Oscar says, I want to write a book next month for, I could have fun and say NaNoWriMo, but I don't think that's how you say it. It's the National Novel Writing Month.
Ooh.
Yes. And what would some advice be for an Orthodox Christian writing fiction? What would be some guidance for what's okay and not okay to write about?
Well, and I applaud this task. I think that's really that's really interesting, there are and even in our Synaxarion that we have just an abundance of stories about the saints. Okay, now could all of these things happen to these saints? Again, nobody was there, so to say that every single story that is related is true, I think would be a little much.
Well, they're asking specifically about some advice for writing Orthodox fiction.
Right. So what I'm saying is, the Synaxarion is a wonderful place to start, because you can read about the accounts of the saints, and from that you can extrapolate some very interesting stories. I think it's a good starting point.
That for inspiration, but to get to the second part of this question about writing what is okay and what's not okay from an Orthodox perspective. So let's just say that I want to write the next James Bond novel, right?
Right.
But I'm writing it. As I have an Orthodox background, I want to write it with my Orthodox principles. From that perspective, from that Orthodox perspective, now I'm writing James Bond, and I'm writing James Bond betting and killing people and doing all these things. From an Orthodox perspective, would that be a limitation? Should I not write about that?
Yeah, I mean, if we're writing from from an Orthodox perspective, then what we don't want to include in the book is to make a hero out of anybody that is doing things that are not Christ-like. Now, we can have, as you like to use the word, protagonists in the story, and he is, and the hero of the story is defending against those. Then I think that there's nothing wrong in that. There's nothing wrong with having a protagonist because that is a reality, okay? But what we have to be very careful of is that we don't enter into a dualistic battle, meaning this battle between good and evil, okay? Because that denies the Christian reality that the battle has been won. As one great author said, I'm trying to remember his name, there is no battle. Okay, so we just have to be very careful that we don't, and in our writings, we don't enter into some of the heresies that the early church has combated, and that we create or we recreate that that heresy. And one of the greatest ones we have is this dualistic Gnostic idea of the battle against good and evil, because there is no battle. So I think I would stay away from something like that. I would stay away from things that deny the Trinitarian aspect of the God that we worship. So I would avoid that. And then I would avoid also then things that, as we talked about in the beginning, that paint Jesus in any other way that makes him either overly human or denies his humanity or denies his divinity. Okay.
I just want to add to this because a lot of the biblical figures that we read about are flawed individuals. Some of them had to go through immense character arcs.
Right.
Saul turning into Paul. So you're writing. Would there be a limitation about writing a character that has to go through that arc that actually starts doing evil things?
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yes, that's great.
But is writing about those evil things considered a sin, or are they looking at the big picture?
No. As long as we're looking, like I said, we're looking at the big picture. You're not making him a hero because of his sins. You're making him a hero because of the recognition and the overcoming of his sins through the power of the Holy Trinity.
Okay. All right.
But I applaud that work.
Diane asks, what day does the Christmas fast begin next month?
Ooh.
It always starts the 15th.
Is it
November 15th.
with the Canon of St. Andrew, right? Let's see. Is the Archdiocese going to help me out here? November. Yeah, Veterans Day. In interest of the
15th, right?
Nativity Fast begins the 15th. There it is, Archdiocese calendar.
Do I get an exception for my birthday on the 16th?
Oh, boy, that's tough.
No, but, well, you know what? I don't even think that's an appropriate question because knowing the depth of your faith, you wouldn't want to have an exception.
Why do you have to paint me in this corner?
Yes.
I celebrate on the 15th from now on.
The 14th, actually.
The 14th, yes.
2 days earlier. I'm going to come back to some of these questions. I'm trying to fit in as many as I can that before I do repeat questions or repeat.
Hey, did anybody guess the saint yet?
No. I was going to say that you should repeat it.
Okay. So one saint we have that's very famous and is very, very well known among Orthodoxy. The second saint has the name of a famous Greek philosopher.
Okay. All right. Emilia, the Baptists put their hands on someone and pray over them to heal them. What does the Orthodox Church see that as? Truth, fake, or even demonic?
No, I mean we see that as a literal expression of "and he laid hands on him," right? So the Orthodox don't necessarily see the need for a literal laying on of hands, okay? Because again, we want to be careful that we never make healing incantational, meaning that we have to do certain things, because then we can get into the heresy of ritualism. All right. So Jesus, when he cured by touching. He healed by just saying the word, and he healed when he was miles and miles away. Okay, so Jesus clearly shows us that his healing power does not depend on some type of formula or incantation, that he is the Lord of creation. So we have to see it we as Orthodox see it from the same perspective. So we don't say anything against placing the hand on. Okay, that's a literal interpretation of the laying on of hands, but it's not a requirement for that healing to occur.
All right. Scare spooks. I love that. Just in time for Halloween.
Halloween, yes.
Hello, Father. How common do you do exorcisms? Is it rare?
Very, very rare. Very, very rare. And remember, at least within the Archdiocese of America, parish priests are not authorized to conduct exorcisms.
Okay. Next up, Lovin NBA. Hi, Father. I am seriously considering joining the Greek Orthodox Church, but I still have some doubts versus Oriental Orthodoxy because of all the controversies surrounding Ephesus 2, Chalcedon. Any suggestions? Thanks a lot for the help.
All right, let's not make this a historic quest. There should only be a single quest, and that is where I find Jesus Christ. This is where we would 100% agree with the Protestant Church, is you need a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Okay, now what we're saying is that Jesus Christ comes with God the Father and the Holy Spirit. So it is a Trinitarian relationship that you want to establish. So don't get caught up in the historic ideas of Chalcedon and Nicaea and Oriental Orthodox versus the Greek Orthodox. What you have to find is, where do you encounter the true Jesus Christ?
Aaron says Hierosimos of Kefalonia and Artemios, the great martyr.
Well, not the two I was thinking of, but I was thinking of somebody a little bit better known, but okay. Wait a minute now.
And Trench guessed Saint Plato the Confessor.
Saint Plato. Plato would have been good, but that is not who I was. There's Plotinus, but you're closer than you realize. You're closer than you realize. He was very close to him. It's very close to him.
The St. Hierosimos Church in Kefalonia is very interesting. It's the one that I've mentioned before that has the entrance to the underground network of caves underneath the altar.
This is the one where it's got the hole, and you can't be too big to get right into the back.
I made it through the first time. I'm not sure if I'll make it now, but
so
wasn't that the miracle that people get through it, no matter how big they are, that they somehow?
Well, I've heard stories of women who are pregnant, who are having trouble with their pregnancy, who stuff themselves through that hole, and then things turn out well. But it's when it comes to those Greek folk stories, you have to be very careful with what is reality versus what they say.
Mm-hmm. Shall I go on to the next question while you're...
Yep.
All right.
Oh, and Diane has a super chat towards our new setup. Audio and video for the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Love and MBA says Saint Socrates.
Ding, 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 ding. All right.
Blessing.
Okay. Oh, that's my blessing.
All right.
That's how you should do your blessing from now on. You do the blessing with the ding, 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 ding.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So what I will say is that that would have, doing that with the ding, ding, ding would have been very hilarious.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's a clue.
Oh, for the other saint?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, that's kind of more than a clue.
Hero martyr.
Hero martyr.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we got? Oh, the higher martyr.
Yeah.
The higher martyr who?
No. Lovin and BA just threw that in.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
I assumed in response to your...
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. All right. CR asks, what is the best answer to give to a 15-year-old that keeps asking what's God's purpose and path for their life? My son has a physical disability and keeps asking how he can use that for God's purpose.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I would start with maybe asking him what are the things that he feels is a strength that he has. Like, does he like to talk to people? Does he like to help people? Does he like to visit? Does he like to help those who are sick? Does he like to be creative? Does he like to do art? What is it that he feels is his strength? And tell him that once he discovers that strength was given to him specially by God, and he can use that strength so that others can see that they have their own strength and they should work to build that up. So that's probably where I would start, is he knows the things that he's really good at or the things that he really likes to do. And that is God guiding him then to do maybe those things, like some of that I mentioned.
If we can take this to a slightly more deeper level, children and young, by the time you're 15, you're aware of this and you're dealing with this, but young people, when they have that physical disability, it automatically ostracizes them.
Correct.
No matter what. And so a question that a lot of these young people have, and even older people if they become disabled, is, if this is God's will, why and what do I do with it? How can I use this? And this is kind of like the second part of this question. My son has a physical disability and keeps asking how he can use that for God's purpose.
So it brings me right to that scriptural passage where the Pharisees ask the blind man, was the blind man blind because of his parents or because of something he did? And Jesus answered, he was born blind so that the glory of God may be revealed in him, because then now Jesus heals him. So you absolutely have to press upon the fact that the disability is something by which he can glorify God, so that it's not something that you did wrong or he did wrong or somebody did wrong. It is God has given him that so that he may be glorified in him. And that's what I'm saying, is that his disability and the things that he's going to accomplish with his disability are going to show the power and the glory of God. Is that what we're...
I think so. A little closer. But just real quick, going back to an earlier question where you guys said how Father Scarespooks asked this question about how common do you do exorcism. I just kind of want to point out that you personally do not do exorcisms.
Of course not.
Yeah, but
no, I said no parish priest is.
Yeah. I just want to reiterate that.
Yeah.
And that there's a difference between the exorcism at a
at a baptism. At a baptism, yes. I mean, technically, that is not. Those are. We are asking that the Holy Spirit. I'm not performing any exorcism. They are prayers of exorcism where we ask that the Holy Spirit then remove any demonic forces. So I'm not really doing anything. Yeah. So good point.
How often have you had a baby spin its head all the way around?
Yes. I've had a baby spit up, but that's about it.
Yeah. Pea soup?
No.
So I know we talked about Halloween earlier, but Donis asks, what is your take on haunted houses in association with Halloween?
Now, there are two types of answers to this, real quick. There's
Okay.
the idea of a quote unquote actual haunted house, and then there's the idea of going to a amusement haunted house.
I think they're referring to the second one.
we can answer both.
And I think I'm going to answer both the same way. We have to be careful when we place ourselves in situations that we can be influenced by demonic forces. We have to be very, very careful of that. So we have to ask ourselves the question, if we're visiting a real haunted house, right? Let's call it real, not the manufactured haunted house. But if we're going to a real haunted house, we have to ask ourselves, what are we going for? What are we trying to accomplish by going to a haunted house? And we want to have contact with a spirit. Okay, if we have contact with that spirit, what are we planning on doing? Are we going to communicate now with the spirit? I mean, so that can lead us down a very, very dark path by wanting to engage with forces which are stronger than we are. So we have to be very careful with that. As far as a manufactured haunted house, we know that's fake. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of it, but I mean, in that sense, we're not trying to, in a manufactured haunted house, we know that we're not trying to bring spirits. We're just trying to get a rise, right? I mean,
it depends the type of haunted house you go to. There are some that are going to be very gory and legitimately, trying to, set up scenarios that's scary. And there are going to be some where people just jump out and go boo. It really just depends.
Okay. I have very fond memories of that haunted house.
Oh,
the Army haunted house when we were in Germany, and you and your guys spent 3 days constructing that. That was an awesome haunted house. Even teenagers were afraid. Yes.
This was before your days as a priest.
Oh yeah, this was
Yes.
this was in the Army. And again, I had I was a depot commander, so I had all of these facilities, and I had an absolutely great carpentry shop. So I had like 20 carpenters that were in my shop, and you're right, they constructed this labyrinth. And we've even got a picture. I'll have to get that so you can see that.
Several pictures.
And I mean they and all of the us as commanders, we got involved in it. Our soldiers got involved in it. And nothing was demonic, but it was the time of Freddy Krueger and Texas Chainsaw.
But some people would describe that as demonic.
Yeah, I get. Well, okay. I was thinking of demonic, like
you mean you mean it's like in the classic sense of something that is demonic. But,
yes,
yeah.
in the classic sense.
But
right,
nowadays, you'll get those parents. They'll say Freddy Krueger, he kills you in your dreams. That's demonic.
I mean, okay, So like I said, the actual haunted house, you got to ask yourself, why are you doing that, and why are you putting yourself in a situation that you can be overpowered by a power that is stronger than you? It is clearly not stronger than Christ, for sure. Okay, and so that's why, as Orthodox, we have a serious problem with that. But in terms of a haunted house, manufactured, I mean, I don't know.
But you talk about actual haunted houses. We did an entire video where we mentioned that ghosts, we don't believe in ghosts. So why would we be afraid of even the concept of a haunted house if we do not believe in ghosts?
That's what I'm saying. So why would you go to a haunted house? It wouldn't serve any purpose.
You have a much higher chance of running across a human being that wants to do you harm in anything that's abandoned. That's the reality. That's much scarier.
All right, shall we move on?
Okay.
We spent some time. Maria Kutsukos, are the leaves on the trees that are the healing for the nations, the prayers of the righteous through the righteous people through Christ?
I'm not. I don't know if I understand that. Can you help me out with that? Are the leaves on the trees?
Are the leaves on the trees that are the healing for the nations, the prayers of the righteous.
Yeah, I don't think I understand the question.
I don't get it. No.
Well, we'll look into it.
Yeah. And Maria, if you're still on, if you could be a little bit more specific, we'll read that comment and get back to that
Like
question.
leaves of the tree, does that mean like something in particular? It's a reference to something. That's as opposed to a literal.
Yeah, I mean, I can apply the cycle of trees, cycle of nature, the trees, the leaves falling and regrowing. But let's get specifics before we try to analyze it.
All right. And then Diane says, the table is loud. Have you been banging?
Somebody's been banging.
It's doing pretty well.
Revelations 22:2.
Oh wow.
All right. And then just going back to what we're talking about, fairy tales, John Costa. Hi, John.
Hey, John.
Said, I loved watching Sherman and Peabody fractured fairy tales during the Rocky Bullwinkle show. Yes.
See, there we go. What was it?
Chapter 22, verse 2.
22.
And when you're done with that, you should probably also mention, just reiterate the Orthodox stance on the book of Revelations. Do you see it?
Yes, I see it here. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. All right. Okay, I'm just give me one second
Does it say something
here.
in the commentary at the bottom?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Is the
All right, while you're looking for that, Lovin NBA said Saint Socrates, the hero martyr, was part of their answer, and I'm trying to read this question. It's broken up into few pieces, but either way, while Father's looking that up.
All right. So, and I'm just that's why I love having the Orthodox study Bible, because I can look at their commentary. The fruits and the leaves of the tree are completely and universally therapeutic, and they reverse the effects of the fruit of the tree of disobedience from Genesis 3:6. So it's a healing. These are the leaves now that are healing, as opposed to what had condemned Adam and Eve.
So the Bible is bookended by these spiritual trees.
Right.
One that undoes the other.
Right. So the tree of life is a symbol of Jesus Christ himself, who gives immortality. So the tree of life, right, that tree of life in Genesis, right, is the one that grants immortality, and that tree is. So the closing story is it's revealed that Jesus is that tree. It fulfills the tree of life in paradise.
So it's essentially
Like
the
you
New
said,
Eden.
Right. It's the creation of the new Eden. So that's a nice way to put it, is that it bookends, right, the gospel from beginning to end.
But what is, once again, just briefly reiterate, what is our take on the book of Revelation?
Well, again, I can't say universally across all of Orthodoxy, because again, Orthodoxy is a little diverse, right? Okay, but there is a significant part of Orthodoxy that believes that the book of Revelation was written by John for that particular time during the persecutions, and that Nero was then the beast. So certainly there are interpretations by the Protestant faith that the book of Revelations is something that is going to happen. All right, but there are others. There are many in Orthodoxy that believe that it was the way that it was written. It was written for events that had already happened that were particular to John's time.
We have a response from a CR. This was the question regarding the young man who had disability.
Yes.
Responds with, thank you. This is actually what my husband and I have been telling him to do the little things first and be faithful and pray. Sometimes he just needs someone else to tell him these things.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
All right. Greek 70s asks, have you ever read any of Father John Savas Romanides' books? Ever thought of reviewing one of his books?
Romanides wrote the one that I read, and Romanides is deep. Whoa, and he's really deep. He probably wrote one of the best texts that I've seen about the Orthodox position of contrasting Augustine's understanding of original sin. So that's the one that I'm most familiar with is his writings on the Orthodox position of Orthodox sin in contrast with St. Augustine. I know that he's written a couple of other books which I have not had the opportunity to read yet. Romanides is like Ioannidis. He's like, you have to read each page like 2 or 3 times.
All right. Aaron says, hi everyone. We know that things like black magic and curses cannot harm us. Bearing that in mind, how should we act towards someone who makes it very clear that they intend to do such things towards us?
Well, chiefly that they know that they have no power, that they have no power over us, for those of us that believe that Jesus Christ conquers all. So there's not really much to say to them. I mean, they have their own free will, what they want to do, but they are powerless over those who have faith in Jesus Christ.
You would apply that to people who say that who are afraid of, and this is a Greek thing, the mati.
Yeah. Now, so remember, and we did talk a little bit about this before. Humans have no spiritual power over other human beings. They don't. But if that one person believes that they can be influenced by that, then a demon will take hold of that and will create that fear in them, and it will perpetuate that fear in them. So the person who is throwing the curse on you or giving you the mati, he's not able to do any of that. He is powerless to do that. But what is able to be done is that the person receiving it, if he believes that, then he will be egged on by the demon to say, yes, you should believe that, and he will then create his own fear, being caught up then in a demonic vision, or under the influence then of demons. So this is part of where the priest's prayer in the service book about the release from the mati is not because we're trying to
counter the spell,
but what we're trying to do is get that person to understand that it is the power of Christ that conquers all.
So your reaction should be to laugh and pray to God to renew your faith, or re-strengthen your faith.
Right. I would, yeah. I like the laughing part too, because it's silly. It's just silly.
And I've seen these, some of these old Greek ladies in Greece,
My grandmother.
Yeah. They do that, and I just find it funny personally.
Right. I mean, again, and you got to be careful. You can't laugh at them, right? I mean, you just try to, and that's why I think that that once they hear that prayer, it gives them strength.
Well, what I meant by laugh, I meant more so if somebody is trying to do some harm to you.
Oh, yes.
The greatest response that you can give, rather than equal violence,
yes,
would be to just laugh it off.
Yeah.
All right. Trench asks, are there different degrees of salvation than just heaven and hell? Since a mass murder versus a saint are on the opposite spectrum, but an average person will go where that is not saintly or evil.
Almost kind of smacks of purgatory, doesn't it? Right? is there another place, right?
Well, I don't know if he. I'm not sure the translation means is there another place. Just are there different degrees of salvation than heaven and hell? I don't know if. I don't think.
I mean, not to my understanding within the Orthodox faith do we see a conditional salvation. What we have is we have St. Mark of Ephesus talking about purification, all right, that you will undergo purification. But is that purification here in this life through suffering, meaning that we see suffering in a positive sense? Or does St. Mark also mean that there is a post-death purification that happens? But I have not, or was not taught anything in seminary, nor have I read anything that says that there is conditional forms of salvation. Salvation is salvation.
So what about the many mansions? Some people think that, I've heard it said that can refer to different levels of...
Is it different levels of understanding, right? Or, what do we... what do we? I'm just looking for. I'm trying to. Where did he say that? I'm trying.
The exact Bible verse. I can't remember.
Why don't we revisit that one if you're looking for an exact?
Yeah.
Real quick, and I may have been doing some technical stuff here, so I may have missed this, but I just want to make sure since Amelia stayed up late for us.
Yeah.
Did we answer the question about the Baptist? The Baptists put their hands on someone and pray over them to heal them?
We did answer that.
Okay,
yes.
good. I just want to make sure for her.
Yeah. Yes. I know I have another question to come back to. I was trying to skip around here a little bit.
Now I feel bad for her. So could I offer her a cup of coffee?
Oh, that's a terrible cup. Terrible cup.
Wait, what's wrong with the little leaves in the acorn?
No, on the inside.
It's dirty inside, and now everybody can see how you're offering her an empty cup.
Oh, gee.
Well, no, it was the Greek coffee that I just had, so it's just kind of.
All right, moving
we
along.
would wash the cup before giving it to you, Amelia.
Yes, we would.
That's the Bible verse, by the way. The dirty cup on the inside. Beautiful on the outside, but dirty on the inside. All right. Miggs says the Catholic Church canonized Padre Pio, a saint. Would the Orthodox canonize a Catholic priest as a saint if he checked all the boxes for Orthodox beatification?
It's possible, but it's not probable. All right. Meaning that we are still two separate churches, and so I don't know because there are certain saints as Catholic saints that we do not what's the word not honor, but that we do not
venerate or
recognize, that we do not recognize in the Orthodox Church. So it is most likely probable that we would not recognize the system that the Catholic Church has used, and that we would want then to go through that process ourselves, because again, we are still two separate churches. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is more likely improbable.
All right.
Good question, though. Yeah.
Oh, when we were talking about guardian angels earlier, Byzantine Ladybug mentioned that she has a lovely book of daily readings for each day of the month called The Guardian Angel.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. And
did we get Emily's question about the mega churches?
That's where I'm heading down there. Let's see.
And while she's doing that, I know that many of you have received this book from me. It turns out that because these come from the Antiochian Archdiocese, they've actually published a newer one. It's a little bit bigger, and all the similar prayers. But it's written a little bit larger, so I've put a bunch of those on order. So we're going to have those as some giveaways, because a lot of people really like these little pocket prayer books. Speaking of daily prayer book,
it's like a pocket constitution. You can keep both.
You can keep both. That's right.
All right, I found Emily's question. Emily asks, what does the Greek Orthodox Church think about the American mega churches preaching the prosperity gospel? They tell people to give all their money to the church and God will return it and more.
Well, they fly off with their private planes.
Yes. All right. So the Orthodox. So straight off the bat, the Orthodox Church rejects the prosperity gospel. Okay, because it's the focus then is taken off from God, because you're in it to win it. Because now it's not about the love of God. And in fact, if it's the true love of God, you don't want the prosperity, you want to give it away. You know, that's what you want to do with it. All right. So the prosperity gospel is for me, because if I give money, I'm getting something back. That is not a Christian ideal in any sense of the word. Okay? Because to those who more has been given, much more will be asked. So the truth of the prosperity gospel is that if I get more, I am then asked or expected by God that I will give more. So it's a totally different message, and the Orthodox Church rejects it.
It does get kind of scary too. I mean, these people, some of these people, I'm not going to name, they prey on the poor. Now we talk about tithing. And,
P-R-E-Y.
No.
P-R-E-Y.
Yeah.
Pray on that.
Now we talk about tithing, and
yes,
in the Greek Orthodox perspective, when it comes to tithing, right? If there's a family that can't afford to feed their children, would you press them to give 10% of what they have?
No, we do the exact opposite. We give them money. That's what the church is here for, to help those. And in fact, you know, in our church, we follow the precepts that St. Paul set up. Widows are not expected to pay stewardship. Now, if they happen to be, if out of the goodness of their heart, because they've been left a nice pension, or and they want to give, okay, that's fine. But we do not require now widows to be, we do not require them to be stewards, all right? Because St. Paul has asked us, take care of the widows. So no, absolutely not. Tithing is for those who God has given. They have to understand that doesn't belong to them; it belongs to God. And to give, the church gives for those who are in desperate situations.
And I bring that up just because there is a misunderstanding when it comes, or a purposeful misconflation of these two aspects between these mega churches.
Right.
Okay, Byzantine Ladybug says, what would an Orthodox exorcism even entail? Someone on a different Orthodox live stream stated she had 3 exorcisms.
Performed on her, or that she performed?
I'm guessing on her. I'm guessing.
So there's no experience that I have that I can speak from. I have never witnessed one. I was never around one. The only exposure I got to exorcism is in the final year at seminary. We had a senior priest come to us. He was the only priest within the Archdiocese of America who had performed exorcisms, and he related those stories to us. And they were so graphically terrifying that it taught all of us that we do not in any way as a parish priest without training want to be involved with those types of forces.
It's probably. Would you think that's a calling within the priesthood? You don't just say, "I'd like to apply for the job of exorcist."
Right.
You get picked somehow. It must be like a calling.
I think that priest would have an apprentice, if we could call him that, right, and that he would work with him. But it was never a single priest. And he instilled in us that this is an extremely long process. It takes years. It starts from a scientific perspective, and then it graduates to a psychological perspective, and then if all of those then do not prove fruitful, then begins the actual beginnings of the exorcism process. So this can take 3 to 5 years before really anything is seen.
Emily has a follow-up to the question earlier about the mega churches. She says, "Thank you so much. You are all the best, and I absolutely agree. My friend is caught up in this kind of church, and I don't know how to tell her to stop going there. I keep praying for her. God bless." So how would you advise somebody that, or somebody who's trying to get somebody out from one of these mega churches? Well, what would you advise?
Well, I wouldn't. She is absolutely correct. I would not advise telling her she's doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's just going to push her deeper in. Okay, so you're doing the right thing right now. Is that you pray that God or the Holy Spirit illuminates her so that she can recognize that gospel for what it is. And then, as Jesus Christ said, is let your light shine before others so that they may see your good. And so your actions, what you do, can maybe influence her and show her what is not being done through a prosperity gospel church.
All right, from Dave, question from a Roman Catholic. Can you tell me about times that Orthodox doctrine or liturgy have changed throughout history? I am concerned with how rapidly my Roman tradition is changing.
Actually, there's a great. Here I go. I'm wandering off again.
Well, but since we're getting close to 8:30, perhaps you.
Yes, he has a quick one. I wonder if the thing with these mega churches and people like giving up their savings in hopes of turning things around. They do prey on the most vulnerable. I wonder if one of the ways that you can try to dissuade it would be to tell them to take the money that they were going to give to that church and actually personally donate that time to helping people around. I think that once you actually start doing physically, you personally doing something good for people, you're going to get a lot more out of it than just handing over a check.
Absolutely. And that does take quite a commitment. It's very easy to help with just giving a check, but there is that personal commitment and involvement of doing something and working with people that you don't necessarily always have contact with, and that can be scary for some people. All right. All right. So anyway, wonderful paper that I'm reading right now. Dissertation is submitted to the faculty of Northeastern Seminary on advocacy for the use of Western rites in the contemporary Orthodox Church. And so this is looking at a reclaiming of orthodoxy in the West. And so the question was...
changes, doctrinal changes or liturgical changes throughout history.
What I like about this paper is it talks about really the time from the time of the schism, and then how our liturgical practices, because of some of our doctrinal differences, then started to diverge. So, has our liturgy changed over time? It certainly has, because remember, it started as St. Mark's Gospel, it started as St. Mark's liturgy, which is the oldest one that is still practiced in Egypt. It evolved into the St. James liturgy, and then St. Basil took it, and then St. John Chrysostom then condensed what St. Basil has written. So the liturgy itself has gone through a transformation. Now, in addition to that, what changes have happened through the St. John Chrysostom liturgy? I think that's really where we have an issue with the Catholic Church, because through especially Vatican II, we've seen now the St. John liturgy really change or has been reduced from what the St. John liturgy is that we practice today. So I'd have to say, So from a liturgical perspective, since the institution of the St. John Chrysostom liturgy, there has not really been changes in the liturgy of the word, so to speak, but there has been changes in how the liturgy is celebrated. So the actual, if I can use the term, ritual actions that happen during the liturgy. But the Orthodox Church, for the most part, has preserved the St. John Chrysostom liturgy from its inception up until now. Where we might have a few differences is that in some of the antiphons we won't have the full extent of the psalm verses that we should be reading. That might be one instance where we've seen some shifts. But he's also said from a doctrinal perspective. Mm-hmm. So as far as doctrine goes, I'm not aware of any doctrinal changes that we have made. When we get into the debate between Orthodoxy and Catholicism, then clearly we would see a difference in the reading of the Creed with the Catholic edition of the Filioque versus we not having the Filioque. That might be a doctrinal difference, but it's not a doctrinal change for us as Orthodox.
Just real quick, because this is a good companion question. What are your thoughts on the Greek Rite Catholics?
So the Greek Rite Catholics are the Melkites. So those are the Greek Catholics. These are Orthodox churches that came under the control of the papacy for the reason of protection during the Ottoman Empire. So when the Byzantine Empire no longer had the strength or the capability to protect Orthodox churches outside their lands, they sought protection elsewhere, and the papacy the Roman Catholic Church was able to provide that protection to those churches with the understanding that they could retain their Eastern rite, but they would be loyal and they would commemorate then the Roman Catholic pontiff in their liturgies.
All right. From Gray Panther. In Luke, Jesus tells the thief, "Today you will be in paradise with me." But didn't Jesus go down into Hades?
Well, okay, so he did. Okay, so wait a minute now.
So he's saying you'll be with me in paradise today. But I guess he's asking, how could that be if Jesus went down into Hades?
And again, look, we have to be careful not to take the absolute literal interpretation. He's saying that you will be with me in heaven today. By what you have said, yes, as of today. But today does not mean a 24 hours. Just like the whole 1,000-year thing, right? 1,000 years, and we take that to be
metaphor
that one day is like 1,000. Again, this is Jewish poetry that just shows that for God, it is a long time. For us is a moment for him. So we can't take these words literally in our modern understanding.
We have a super chat, another one from Tommy. Thank you, Tommy.
All right, Tom.
Does God punish or correct us when we go astray, or perhaps a bit of both?
Well, no, because he doesn't punish. He is saddened, and again, if we could use that anthropomorphical characterization, but no, he doesn't punish us. We punish ourselves. Once we stray from God, we put ourselves into a sinful situation that we will suffer the consequences. We fall into alcoholism, we fall into drugs, we fall into a lustful lifestyle. Those things have inherent dangers in them. So we will cause that unto ourselves. What we believe as Orthodox Christians is that like the father of the prodigal son, God stands ready at a moment's notice for us to return to him, and that is his fervent desire. So no, he does not punish us. We punish ourselves.
You think that misconception comes from the misinterpretation of a fire and brimstone God from the Old Testament as compared to Jesus in the New Testament? Because when people think of the angry God.
Right.
They think of the God of the Old Testament. And for people who believe in the angry God of the Old Testament,
yes.
they would think he's very capable of punishing.
He's very and I can understand where they can get that from, is because when we see like the one video that we just did, I mean, for the Battle of Jericho, right? Or no, it was after the Battle of Jericho in the Long Wars,
the
longest day,
yeah.
the longest day, right?
Movie,
it was Joshua was battling with his soldiers, and we read that God aided him by sending down hailstones, right? So we do see God God also inflicting punishment, but we kind of talked through this idea that it is okay to protect the righteous.
All right.
A couple more. We're technically past 8:30.
Okay. Well, here's one, and I apologize in advance because I am probably going to get this pronunciation really wrong.
Ted's
but
question.
Yes, Ted's question. So Diane says Ted has a question.
Uh-oh.
Is there an advocatus diaboli for canonization?
Advocatus diaboli.
What is that?
For canonizations for saints.
For the Orthodox Church, if what that means is, do we have a procedure? The answer is no. It's very, very, can I use the term loosey-goosey?
Well, you just did.
It's not as procedural as it is in the Catholic Church. Remember, again, the Catholic Church grew up in a different environment than the Orthodox Church grew up in. So because of the fall of the Roman Empire, the Catholic Church was not only the religious leader or the religious governance, but they also, in some sense, were the state. So there is this very legalistic and very procedural application of doctrine and of ritualistic events like canonization. For the Orthodox Church, the governance was done by the Ottomans, and so we were only dealing with religion, and so we didn't really codify a lot of these principles. And for us, they became more about inspiration of the Holy Spirit and guidance of the Holy Spirit, but not in any kind of formal or procedural manner.
And just in case, I'm going to look up that specific.
Yeah, but it's probably the procedure for.
Yeah.
How many would?
Well, let's go for a couple more, because I'm seeing some people here that I've never seen before, and I want to make sure that we address them. Dimitri USA says, Father Angelo, we have a few hand-painted icons from when our parents passed away.
Okay.
What would you suggest as a proper method of donating them?
The easiest thing to do is, if you know people that like of who's the icon, the name, like if it's Saint Dimitri or it's Saint George, and you know those people and you would like to offer them the icon as a gift, I think that's a wonderful thing to do. If you don't know any of those people, then the easiest thing is to go to your local Greek Orthodox church or to go to your local Orthodox church and just ask the priest there that I have these icons, and if you know somebody that would like to have them, I'd like to offer them to you. I mean, that's what happens at my parish. So I'd start with your friends and family first and offer them to them as gifts and remembrances, and if not, then go to the priest.
And Emilia asks, which Bible does the Greek Orthodox Church use? They have the study Bible. They found the study Bible. Do we have a specific version as an NIV, etc., etc.?
Okay, so we, other than this, we don't really have a specific one. I mean, I've used several when I was when I was at the seminary. I can tell you that the one that I read from on Sundays, the gold cover gospel, I can tell you that that's RSV, the Revised Standard Version. But I did have professors who liked the NIV. I had other professors that liked the New Jerusalem Bible. So so RSV, the Orthodox Study Bible, NIV, and then the New Jerusalem Bible. Those I would those are the ones that I have seen or I have personally used both at seminary and here.
All right, well, last question.
All right, the last question is from V. Torres. Can you please explain your worship on Sunday? I'm a former Seventh-day Adventist and struggle to understand your Sunday worship.
All right, so I want you to break it down line by line.
Yes, and go over each.
Well, you can give
No,
a brief summary, but I do want to point out real quick, we do have, I don't know if we have the date for it yet, but we do have a teaching liturgy coming up where Father Angelo will actually break down all the different parts of the Sunday worship.
So let's just let's give you a Orthodox liturgy in 30 seconds or less. Okay, so the Orthodox liturgy consists of two parts. It consists of the beginning part, which is what we call the liturgy of the word. During this part, what is most important is the reading of the epistle and the reading of the words of Jesus Christ, so reading of the gospel. There will be prayers that are said for the community, for the welfare of the community, and for the nation, and then for the peace of the whole world. After that part, then we will celebrate what is called the Liturgy of the Eucharist. This involves the preparation of the receipt of Holy Communion. So what that will involve is the great procession, which is what we would call the great entrance, where the gifts are brought onto the altar table, the consecration of those gifts, and then the receipt of Holy Communion by the by the faithful. After that, there'll be a dismissal prayer, where everybody will then be sent out into the world to then with the body of Christ within them to go and to love one another as he has loved you. That's about as quick as I can get.
All right. Well, we had a lot of great questions tonight.
Yeah.
We couldn't get to every single one of them.
But you say that every time. But
yeah. Well, it's
a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. If we didn't get to your question, please save it and resubmit it. We're live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We have people from around the world staying up until the late hours
I'm telling
of the morning in some cases.
Would I stay up for my own show that late? I don't know.
You have before for the pre-recordings.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
When you're on vacation, I know you do.
Yeah.
But thank you again. Just as a reminder, there is no Sunday school video this week. We're taking the week off because the following week we have a big video coming up about Belshazzar's feast. Just in time for that end of the month holiday everybody has been talking about.
Right.
And you have the blessing of the vehicles this Sunday.
And I have the blessing of the vehicles this Sunday. That's right. Yes.
And also a dance.
Oh, and we've got the big dance to commemorate the event of Orchide in Greece during World War II. So that's being put on by the young adults of our parish. So we're really looking forward to that.
I'm gonna film Father Angelo doing a dance just to share on this show.
Oh yes. Can Greek priests dance? There's the other question.
You've seen the one with Prince Charles dancing? Hopefully you'll be a little better than that.
Oh, okay.
Or better than Elaine on Seinfeld.
That's where I was going. Elaine on Seinfeld. Oh man.
All right. Well.
So again, everybody.
Who was the second saint of the day?
Hilarion. Saint Hilarion.
Yes.
I think someone came up with that answer.
Oh, we missed it.
Yes.
Well, whoever it was.
You received then the blessing. So, hey, again, it's really been an enjoyable night. Presbytera, thank you very much. Demos, as always, thank you for producing such a great show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for providing the entertainment for such
a great show.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
See you next week.